Hey everyone, welcome. I am so thrilled you're joining me for this explainer today. We are going to unpack some absolutely fascinating, honestly paradigm-shifting concepts from our source material about Islamic eschatology. Basically, we're talking about the events of the afterlife. And listen, we're going to explore a truth that is going to completely shatter what a lot of people assume about what happens after we pass on. We're talking hidden checkpoints, the ultimate balancing of scales, and a genuinely terrifying realization waiting for anyone who thinks their religious rituals alone are going to be enough to save them. So, grab your focus because this journey is going to make you look at your daily interactions in a totally different light. So, let's kick things off with a pretty fundamental question. Is the afterlife strictly a binary outcome? I mean, growing up or just absorbing cultural stories, we're so often taught that the ultimate destination is just a simple coin toss, heaven or hell, good or bad, pass or fail, right? But what if I told you that this childhood assumption doesn't even come close to capturing the whole picture? Our source material challenges this deeply ingrained idea right out of the gate and asks us to rethink the entire geography of the afterlife. There's just a whole lot more nuance here than a simple binary choice. Okay, Section 1, Between Heaven and Hell. Let's dive right into this. If you look at Surah Al-A'raf in the source text, there's this mind-blowing detail. The final destination isn't immediately this sharp left or right split. So what is this in-between state? Well, it's called Araf. The text defines Araf as a literal middle ground, a specific location suspended right between heaven and hell. And you might be wondering, who goes there? It's basically a waiting area for what we could call the middle class of the afterlife. These are individuals whose good deeds and bad deeds are completely mathematically equal. They didn't quite accumulate enough good to earn a direct ticket to paradise. But actually, scratch that. It's more that their scales are just perfectly exactly balanced, so they aren't condemned to hell either. They're just suspended in this middle ground. And as the text notes, they remain in a constant state of hope, just yearning that eventually they'll be allowed into heaven. It's an incredible concept of limbo. Moving on to Section 2, Al-Qantara, the final test. Now, Arafah is just one part of the picture. Here is where it gets really intense, because even for believers who make it through the main, terrifying trials, there's a hidden, ultimate checkpoint that catches so many completely off guard. The crucial point you need to know is this. Surviving the perilous bridge known as Asirat? Yeah, that is not the final victory. In a lot of popular understandings, crossing that terrifying bridge over the fire is the finish line. You cross it, you breathe this massive sigh of relief, and you're in. But our text explicitly warns us that this is a huge misconception. If you think Asirat is the end of the line, you are completely ignoring the existence of a place called Al-Qantara. Which brings us to Section 3. Rights of Creator versus Creation. To really grasp what Al-Qantara is, you've got to understand that believers don't just face one massive trial. It's actually broken down into two totally distinct judgments. Think of it as two separate arenas. The first judgment, which happens way before you cross the Asirat bridge, is entirely about settling the rights of the Creator. This is all about your personal relationship with God. Did you pray? Did you fast? Did you do what was divinely asked of you? But then there's the second judgment, and this happens after that main bridge at a smaller bridge called Al-Qantara. This second judgment is exclusively dedicated to settling the rights of the creation. That means human rights. This is where every single interpersonal conflict, every little wrong you did to someone else is fiercely litigated. So, Al-Qantara is essentially this ultimate cosmic courtroom. God uses this specific space to resolve all unsettled issues between believers before anyone is allowed to take a single step into paradise. Just imagine the sheer agonizing tragedy of this for a second. A person is past the first judgment. They've somehow crossed the terrifying bridge of Asirat. They are standing literally at the magnificent gates of paradise, so close they can almost touch it. And boom, they are completely blocked from entering. Why? Because of unresolved conflicts and abuses they committed against other people on earth. They simply can't go in until the people they hurt get their justice. Section 4. Who is truly bankrupt? Now, what's really interesting about this is a specific, incredibly profound dialogue from Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He poses this piercing question to his companions, and honestly, I want you to ask yourself this right now. He asks, do you know who the real bankrupt person is? Just think about that. What comes to your mind when you hear the word bankrupt or muflis? What does it actually mean to lose absolutely everything? Naturally, the companions gave the most logical, worldly answer possible. They essentially replied, well, a bankrupt person among us is someone who has no money or wealth. And, I mean, it makes perfect sense, right? That's exactly how we define bankruptcy in our daily lives today. But this perfectly reasonable answer is exactly what sets up the massive theological twist that comes next. The prophet completely flips the script on them. He reveals the shocking truth about spiritual bankruptcy. The true muflis, the truly bankrupt person, is someone who shows up on Judgment Day heavily armed with a whole lifetime of righteous deeds. We're talking mountains of prayers, endless days of fasting, massive amounts of charity. From a purely ritualistic standpoint, they look like spiritual billionaires. It looks like they've got a VIP ticket to the highest levels of paradise. But, despite all of that wealth, they end up losing absolutely every single bit of it.
So how do they lose it all? Well, because they completely failed the ultimate test of human decency. The source material spells out the exact everyday abuses that will totally void a person's lifetime of religious rituals. This spiritually wealthy person arrives at Alcantara, but back on Earth, they insulted others. They falsely accused people. They unjustly stole or consumed other people's wealth. They shed blood. They physically beat others. They used their words and their hands to inflict real pain on the creation, completely ignoring the basic rights of the very people around them.
Let's move to Section 5, Final Outcome and Lesson. Okay, let's see how this actually builds. How exactly does a person go from having mountains of good deeds to being completely ruined at Alcantara? It operates through this very strict, absolutely uncompromising system of cosmic compensation. Here's the tragic step-by-step breakdown. Step 1. There's no money in the afterlife, obviously, so compensation is paid in the only currency available, good deeds. The abusers' hard-earned prayers and fasts are literally taken from them and handed over to their victims. Step 2. Because they hurt so many people, those mountains of good deeds, they run out completely. The account hits zero. But there are still victims waiting in line for justice. So, Step 3 kicks in. The victim's sins are actually taken off their own shoulders and loaded onto the abuser. The abuser is now carrying sins they didn't even commit, just to pay for their earthly cruelty. And finally, Step 4. Stripped of all goodness, weighed down by the sins of everyone else, the abuser is cast straight into the hellfire, from the very gates of paradise right into the fire.
The overarching moral warning here is absolutely crucial, and it is so passionate. The source makes it devastatingly clear. Prayers, fasting, and charity, no matter how impressive the numbers are, literally cannot save you if you continually use your words or actions to harm other people. You cannot balance a ledger of divine worship while running a massive deficit in human rights. It just doesn't work. If you destroy the rights of the creation, you completely void the rewards you wanted from the Creator.
And that brings us to this chilling, provocative final thought from our source material, aimed directly at those who abuse others while hiding behind their religious rituals. It simply says, "See you at Alcantara." It's just a stark, heavy reminder that absolutely no injustice goes unnoticed, and every single interpersonal wrong will be settled at that final bridge. So I highly encourage you to reflect deeply on this. How are you treating the people in your life today? Because according to this text, your ultimate destination doesn't just depend on your relationship with the divine. It depends on how you treat the person sitting right next to you. Keep questioning, keep learning, and thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.